Hi, Susan.
Hi,
Hi,
everybody.
Tanya. Nice to see you.
Hi.
We're just waiting a minute, Susan and Tanya, to see if anybody else joins us. Typically, when it comes to members of the public, they're usually a set that's on right when the meeting starts, and then one or two might trickle in. But once we get to 7:04, we'll start rolling. I was just telling Dustin and Marianne we have a relatively light agenda this month or this tonight, simply because of some of the things that were supposed to happen between the last meeting and this one got pushed off a little bit. So got a couple updates. One specific initiative that we're going to discuss, next steps on, and then we've got, obviously the session is bookended by two basically open forums, so we'll proceed accordingly. 7:04, we might as well get rolling. First item is review and approval of the May 25th, 2023 meeting minutes. Thank you, Marianne, for doing that. Just for everybody, just as a reminder, those are in the meeting minutes share folder on the OneDrive. If anybody has any questions about where that is, let me know. But all the meetings going back to January of 2022 are in there. So can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I will make that motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Dustin. Can I have a second? Marianne or Tanya, either?
Either one.
Great. Okay, minutes are approved. Next item is, of course, the public forum. Susan, it's awesome to see you here. If you've got anything for us, or I don't know if you got anything to talk about, but if you do, the floor can absolutely be yours right now, because it does. This is again, we're going to have space at the end of the call as well to discuss stuff. But if you got anything, the mic is yours.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I should be a little bit more prepared to take advantage of this opportunity at each of your meetings. I guess the only thing is that I believe, if you're not aware, there is a ACD municipal planning grant opportunity coming up. That I believe that the notice of that opportunity will be coming out in July. So I don't think that you guys have a kind of formal walk bike plan. So if that was something that you were interested in doing, that might be an opportunity to look at. So if you're interested in that, I can get more information about it and send it along to you, Chris.
That would be fabulous. You bring up, it's interesting given all the work that's been done, yet we don't have a formal plan. I see no reason why we wouldn't be interested in investigating the potential for that, for sure.
Okay, great. I will get better information and send that along to you. But I think that, again, that notice of funding opportunity is coming out in July, as I understand it.
Okay, terrific. And don't feel any pressure. You don't have to come on prepared or anything like that. Though that said, if you want to get an actual agenda item on, no, we're just glad to have someone. We're just glad to have any liaisons from any of the groups that we have shared space with. So it's awesome to have you.
I still feel like I'm trying to catch up and kind of understand the scope of the things that you guys are doing or interested in doing. And I apologize. I didn't realize until tonight that that's where I could find the minutes. So
I will
looked on the website and not found them there. So that is really helpful. So I'll be sure to, make sure I'm more familiar with that.
If you need any help navigating, I'll probably in the next couple of weeks go back, because even I've been in advance of preparing materials for the select board meeting next week. I was looking for materials that I would have assumed were in one place and were in a completely different form, never mind place, than I had anticipated them. And it's because last time we talked about them was 11 months ago. So I'm going to do a cleanup and a reorg of the share, but everything's in there, including all the work from the ad hoc committee that was passed on to us. So there's material going back a few years, in addition to anything that's been shared with us from other organizations as well. So there's all kinds of interesting stuff. Some of it you'll be super familiar with because you've seen it and might have even had a hand in developing some of the materials that have been forwarded to us. But there's
So
a ton in there.
I've actually only been with Locomotion since not even a year, just since last September.
Mhm.
So a lot of the work that's been done previously for some of the committees, I'm not that familiar with. So that will be helpful to poke around in there and get more familiar with the things that this group is interested in. I guess the other thing I wanted to just put out there, I know you've struggled with getting full representation on this committee.
Yep.
And if you'd like, I could send out an email blast, e-blast to our advocates in your area and just do a little push plug there amongst people that are interested in this topic and see if we can rally some more bodies who might be interested in applying.
We appreciate that. I'll get back to you on that. I've been having conversations with Ian about the path forward for that. We see each other every week or 2 weeks. And there is a path to the next step in the path. I'll get an answer to you back shortly. Because he's told me what we have to do, at least to yes or no, the plans that we had in place moving forward. But I'll get back to you very shortly about if we could use your help getting the word out about trying
I
to
just
get
want
more
to let
people.
you know that was an option. So
Thank you.
if you think that would be useful.
That may in fact be useful. There's obviously one of the things that he's been great about. It's been great having him as our kind of select board sponsor. Is he gives us the ground rules of what it would take to fill those empty seats, in midstream, as it were. And I don't want to overstate the effort involved in getting it done, but I don't want to understate it either. So give me a little bit more time and then I'll be able to say, okay, you know what, we need to pivot from the plan we had in place to fill those seats. Let's sing from the rooftops that we're looking for additional help. Anything else for the rest of the public forum part of this? All right, then we'll move on to the third agenda item, which is the quarterly initiatives. As I mentioned, when Dustin and Marianne and I were talking earlier before the meeting started. So now that the town has a grant writer on staff, thanks to the ARPA process, what I would like to do is between now and the next meeting, I want everybody, and we'll facilitate this, the gathering of this information. I want everybody to generate as many ideas as they can, or no, I shouldn't say as many ideas as they can, but generate ideas that we want to put in front of the select board that we feel like would be great for grants to help fund in whole or in part. Ian has told us what the process is for applying for grants. Now that we have that grant writer on as a resource for the town, I would love to take advantage of it sooner rather than later. So between now and the next meeting, I'd like to generate ideas. At the next meeting, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure we have the full board there so that we can vote on those things and then quickly get those things in front of the select board. All right.
When you say that, do you mean ideas about specific grants to apply for, or just the things to get funded?
Tanya, thanks for that distinction. It was more the ideas to get funded rather than the grants themselves, though. If we certainly, and Susan just mentioned one set of grants that are coming up. If we know also what grants are actually happening, that's going to be helpful as well. We're a little bit out of sequence or a little bit behind because we wanted to put a couple initiatives in front of the select board per quarter to consider. We haven't been able to do that because we haven't had a quorum since the beginning of the year. And so we haven't been able to vote on things to put in front of the select board. We have to do certain things in full view of the public. So that's one of them. So if we do know specific grants, for sure, that can be part of it. Susan?
Yeah, I was wondering if, so I don't know your history of what kind of projects you might already have in your pipeline or your queue that you're interested in. I imagine there are some somewhere. Just wanted to also throw out there that if there's interest, in this group going out with a survey to the community to see what ideas they have. That's something that locomotion can also help you, put together and distribute and analyze.
That could be a good idea. I will, I'm going to see if I can dig up where the ARPA list of ideas. I know that there were one or two bicycle and pedestrian initiatives on there. Oddly, one for Pine Street, which we had already been working on, as noted before. So I think there might have already been some work done to gauge what the public's ideas are. That said, it was obviously under the larger banner of, we've got a bunch of money. Does anybody have any ideas? Now that the ARPA, the allotment of the funds is starting to wind down, I think it'd be a good time it'd probably be helpful to go out with a more focused survey around bicycle and pedestrian ideas. That would be cool too. But at the same time, that's part of a process that we end up as a board voting on what ones we're going to put in front of the select board. So I'll just double check with Ian on any process things that we have to follow there.
How would you like us to put together that list? Do you want it as a Google Doc so that people can see what others have done? Post it on the share drive? How would you like that to happen?
I'll create a doc on the share drive that I'll send a link to so people can fill it in via a browser. They don't have to open it with an app or anything like that. It's probably the best way to do it. And then the other thing one of the things that I think we're going to be looking at is, because we've had requests for it and we've talked about it a few times as well, is additional bike racks. And so I've been doing an audit of bike racks, and I've got to post a document, like a map document with all the locations that I've identified, so that other people can look at that too and contribute to that as well, because that I feel like is going to fold into this process as well. So Marianne, I'll stand up a document and send a link around to everybody that everybody can just pile into.
Great.
Sounds good.
Cool. So let's see. And yeah, I just mentioned, Susan, you asked what we were thinking of as far as initiatives. The two that come to mind, in addition to the bike rack thing, which again, we've had requests from people for, is assisted sidewalks, lit up sidewalk, or not lit up sidewalk, crosswalks. We've identified two locations. Ian's told me that the select board is amenable to that stuff. And I think we just want to give it, let them know that we feel like those things are good ideas. He's told me where they're thinking, and they dovetail perfectly with the locations that we've identified. So Dustin, sounded like you were in favor.
I was scratching the back of my, but yeah, I'm very much in favor. Actually, I was in Essex just last night, and my son practiced at Maple Street Park, and I went from Maple Street Park to Essex High School, and I noticed crossing the street there, like, their crosswalks, you just hit the button and the light starts strobing immediately, and the cars definitely respond to it. Like, I was running, I didn't have to, it was definitely felt a lot safer than often at North Street, you go to cross North Street and you stand in the sidewalk and look, but the car just keeps going by anyways. So lights would be great. I'm totally in favor of that at those crosswalks.
Yep.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things that's going to happen with two things to note on this. At the select board meeting next week, they're going to be discussing the plan for the Pine Street water main thing, so our Pine Street traffic calming thing will fold nicely, I think, into that. One of the things that I read about recently, I think last week, and I'll forward the link to everybody, is that there's I can't remember the community, it's not in Vermont, but a community was going through or went through the process of doing the single lane, 2-direction traffic calming that was initially slated for Pine Street. And there have been some interesting challenges with the implementation of it, that I don't want to say they match with some of the select board's concerns because, but there are similarities between when the select board said, hey, hold on, before we actually jump into this, let's put an interim step in there. They noted that just the sheer math of what happens on a street as wide or really as narrow as Pine Street, when you throw additional lines in, what it ends up doing is if two cars are coming and somebody's in the lane, if somebody's in a walking or a biking lane, the car will move into that lane, into the what is supposed to be the cycling and pedestrian lane by default, because they're not going to allow their car to get hit by another car. So
Right.
there's a theory, I'm going to look more into it, but there's a theory that it actually creates problems. I'm not 100% sure if that's the end, that's what happens practically, but it was a very interesting thing to consider that I hadn't, when I closed my eyes and pictured how it was originally going to work, hadn't necessarily saw it that way. You expect cars to understand what the burdened vehicle is and that they stop, they don't pull into and keep driving down a lane with a pedestrian or a cyclist in it. But that's what ends up happening, is that they don't care that they're the burdened vehicle and need to actually pull over and stop to let the other car by. Thought it was kind of interesting. Anyway,
Chris, are you
Yeah.
talking about advisory lanes?
I'm not sure. This is when you don't have when the road is technically not wide enough to be a 2-lane road, but you have 2 lanes of traffic, and you put pedestrian, and whether they're solid or dotted, you put lanes on the side for,
Yeah, the dash lanes
Yeah,
on the side. And
like they
then
have
the
in Lincoln.
cars
Yeah.
are kind of sharing the center space.
Yes.
Sometimes, I mean, the width of that center space can vary. I mean, it's typically between like 10 and 18 feet. So if it's 18 feet, 2 passenger cars could go by each other, but if it's narrower, then they have to navigate that space. So the person riding their bike in that dash bike lane has priority, and the cars can't go in there if there's a bike there. But if there's no bike there, then they're absolutely allowed to use
Yes.
that space to negotiate
Mhm.
another vehicle.
Yeah, it was interesting. I think this, in hindsight, I think the select board, their concerns were that it was going to confuse people. And so obviously that necessitates an educational component on the front end. And the educational component, is there to cover many bases, to cover everyone from people who don't live in Bristol but are coming down Pine Street to go to Bristol Works, people using Pine Street as a shortcut to get over to the school, as well as people within the town and within the village who just don't care to stay up to date on traffic rules and regulations and things like that. So, just thought I'd mention it. I'll find the article and forward it to everyone. It did give me thinking more about the educational component that we would have to put in place, because Susan, the road is, we measured the width of the road from one end to the other, and it's variable and narrow. It's like you can't even put a width. You could not put the width of the bike and pedestrian lanes that most places are putting in there. You'd literally have almost no room to have a car drive down the center. One car, never mind 2 directions. So
Yeah. Do you know what the width? Do you remember what the width is? I'll take a look at it. I'm very curious.
yeah,
now.
I'll find it. It's actually, I'll dig it up, but it's on, we have those measurements on the share somewhere.
So if what you're talking about is an advisory lane, I'd be very curious to know about that. But the only one that I know of in the state that's active right now is the one in Burlington on the Queen City Parkway. So I don't know if you ever have a chance to get down that way, but you can see one in operation there. Again,
No, but
they can function differently depending on how much room you do give motorists in that center lane, but yeah.
I'll send you, are you familiar with maybe they're not advisory lanes, maybe it's something different, but are you familiar with the ones that they did in Lincoln?
I had heard that they'd done them in Lincoln, then I heard that they were removed. But
fascinating.
I don't know, you don't quote me
Really?
on that because you know how it is when people are sharing emails and
Yes.
I think they got them on Quaker Street and South Lincoln Road.
Yeah.
I feel like they're there. I do think that road wider. Both those roads are wider than Pine Street. I totally get their concern, but you know, with Pine Street, it is so narrow in spots. If you were to put a 3 foot, I mean, or less than 3 foot on each side, stripe it. What you're leaving in the middle is, I mean, if you were to do 4 feet on each side, I don't even know if at the full width of the vehicle down the middle. But some people just did one like pedestrian lane on like the north side of the street. But then I think, well, then there's the issue of, you know, walking traffic in both directions on the side. Do I really want the traffic coming from behind? That's where I'm supposed to be because it's painted and designated for me.
Yeah.
So it's tough because the road is so narrow, but people still drive. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm
It is technically a one-lane road.
yes. Yep.
I think the stop signs will definitely help calm the traffic, and maybe some. If we can't do anything with striping, maybe some signs that indicate this road shared. You know, watch for pedestrians.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
bicycles use full width
Yeah.
or something like that alerts people to the fact that there's a lot of pedestrian bicycle traffic on the road.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking at the photos I took of South Street in Lincoln, and the lane that's left in the center after they've taken the space on both sides for the bike and pedestrian lanes, the space that's left in the center looks wider than Pine Street is in total. So
Yeah.
And it's interesting they would kill it because South Street, it's not like a super busy, it's a really nice road. It's nice and wide. It's
South Lincoln Road, I know there's not a lot of traffic on it.
No, and so it's
it's a road a lot of people love to cycle because you're heading towards the Lincoln Gap. That's great.
Yeah.
You know, it's known cyclists all over. You know, the west side of Lincoln Gap is the steepest paved mile in the U.S. So a lot of people head for it on bike.
Yeah. Yeah. So I will send out a note on quarterly initiatives so that we can get that document up and running and be ready for next month's meeting so that we can get those things in front of the select board. We'll move on to, if everybody's cool, we'll move on to other business. I've got a couple updates. 2 weeks ago, we had been asked to speak at the Bristol Democrats meeting. They had a session that was exclusive to these types of initiatives. So they had Jonathan Weber from Local Motion. They had a woman from the one of the regional planning commissions on there, as well as us, as well as me. So I went and gave the spiel of what we were doing, where we were at, what ground we had covered, a little bit of the history of the committee from the ad hoc group into today. And it was all relatively warmly welcomed. They asked, not unlike what Susan mentioned, they asked, well, how can we help? How can we get more people involved? So it seemed like a cool group to help get the word out. But it was good. And it was cool to see their entire meet, or I shouldn't say the entire public part of their meeting was programming around bike and pedestrian health and initiatives and things of that nature. I mentioned earlier that we are on the docket for on the agenda for the next select board meeting. We got bumped. I can't remember how many people were on the call when I noted it, but we got bumped from last week's meeting because there were too many agenda items and which we had sort of anticipated. But anyway, I've submitted the materials for the Pine Street stop sign initiative, as well as the materials for the mission statement. So I'll go in front of the select board next week, present that stuff, and then we'll proceed accordingly. Hopefully I don't know if they'll discuss it on the call. Obviously the Pine Street traffic thing is something they're taking under advisement. It would be cool to get an up or down or commentary on our mission statement a year and a half in on the call, but we will obviously take what we can get with a mind towards a select board meeting in July being one where we can put not just initiatives in front of them, but also hopefully by that point, we have one or two new committee members as well. Like I said, Ian has given me the process for moving those two people for, or those, any candidates forward. So anything else for the other business section of the meeting tonight? Okay, with that, I ask for a motion to adjourn then. We could be out of here in 28 minutes, 29 minutes.
I motion to adjourn the meeting. It is
Second,
I second.
I will.
terrific. Multiple seconds. Susan, it's great seeing you. Thanks for stopping by. Everybody that's on tonight, thank you. Appreciate it. I know the weather's nice, so I appreciate it even more that everybody was able to make it on, and look for one or two emails in the next 2 days. Susan, again, reach out if you've got any questions. Do you have the link to the share?
Is it the one that's on your website? Is that the link to it?
It might be. Yeah, those things are usually, I believe they're hosted there, but I can send it to you.
Yeah,
I can send you.
Do you mind where you think it's appropriate to go ahead and copy me on information you're sending out to the group?
Yeah, sure. That'd be great. Yeah.
Okay, that'd be super.
mind that
Thank
at all.
you.
All right. Everyone, thank you. Enjoy the weather, and yeah, see you on the other side.
Bye, everyone.